Hello and welcome to the Real Talk Show. Today's episode is one that is quite exciting, and we are back again as we do every Friday at exactly 2 p.m. And today we are about 6 minutes late, but anyway, it was because of technical problems we could not control, but we're here now. And today's guests are people that need no introduction, and I'm quite excited to be sitting with them today to discuss an important topic, a topic that I believe could actually change a lot of us, could change our mindsets, and could contribute heavily in the fight against HIV. I will start with ladies first, right? So I'll start with Sophia. Sophia Chapeshamano happens to be an actress in one of our famous shows on Zambezi Magic, and I'd just like to, give her the platform to just greet you all who are watching, both on YouTube and Facebook. Sophia, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm cold, but I'm good. First of all, thank you for having me on this show. It's quite an honor to be here, discussing really important things. And I'm very humbled that you thought I may have some opinions that are valuable enough to share here. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, our second guest today is another person that needs no introduction. Been in the music industry for some time now. Sometimes he's a comedian, he's an actor, he's a musician, does quite a number of things, and we're quite excited to be hosting him today. Abel Chungu is our second guest for today, and another person on the call currently is Chansa Shadrick, who happens to be our sign language interpreter, and we will be doing it together today. Right, thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, today's topic is quite interesting, and we are discussing the role of art, not ART, but art as in creative arts in the fight against HIV. So, quite an important topic. And I'd like to start the conversation firstly by just asking what or how much, Natasha or Sophia would want to say Sophia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I'll say, what or how much impact would you say art has on influencing social norms and beliefs?
I think art has a great impact on influencing social norms and beliefs because, in things like music, things like TV programs, which are the mainstream, art, there's just, it influences a lot of the culture. It has power to um, influence perspective on different issues. So I think art has a very, very big influence on social norms and beliefs because sometimes a society may not really be open to certain things, but over time when they see certain things in art and it becomes normalized, it has the power to definitely change the mindset of society and even sensitize them on issues that they may have not known about. So I think it has a great impact.
Okay, thank you so much. Abel, I was introducing you earlier and I was saying you need no introduction. Sometimes you're a comedian, sometimes you're a musician. I don't know what else you are. So, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to sit with you and just discuss this important topic. Also, I can see while we are all complaining it's cold, you're seated outside. So, we appreciate the effort that you're making to be part of us today. Would you like to add anything onto what Sophia has already said? I was asking what or how much impact she thinks art can have on influencing social norms and beliefs.
I think it's I agree with her 100%. It has a huge impact. I mean, it affects fashion, it affects mindset, core beliefs, traditions, just everyone's worldview of life. And at the end of the day, we make our choices based upon our experiences. And art has a way of expressing, or they say art imitates life, and sometimes life imitates art. So the two are hard to break apart. Yeah.
Okay, and what are some of the things that you think artists in general, or together with other peculiar people, speaking of key stakeholders, can do to contribute in the fight against HIV?
Well, I mean, it's a man, it's a lot to be able to discuss. I'm part of a group called Ukani Manje, where we as a number of artists got together. We launched a campaign trying to help sensitize people about HIV and AIDS. We worked as artists, did a great song, I think, at the end of the day. And we've been active for last couple of years, and at the end of the day, we've worked with guys. In fact, some of our sponsors are one of the guys from the rock band Aerosmith, and we want people to be more sensitized. We want people to be understanding of the responsibility that we all have in ending HIV and AIDS. But at the end of the day, it is an uphill battle, um, because, like I said, art affects us in culture wise, right? So at the end of the day, even if you could be as strong as a positive as your message could be, at the end of the day, it's the negative message that sometimes, in a way that it's packaged, seems very attractive, right? Some of the worst decisions that we make are always packaged in some of the greatest music that we've ever heard. And so I mean, for real, and that comes as a responsibility. And I think for me, my biggest frustration, maybe that'll come in a question later on, is I don't think we're doing much in terms of regulation, on deciding and saying where and how should what sort of music be played. I will go. I've got kids, you know what I'm saying, and I'll go to an event that they'll say, "Oh, it's family friendly," and then because I'm a musician, I'm sensitive to the music in the background. I'm listening to the music playing. I'm like, this has no family friendly vibes to it. As an adult, I can process it and say, well, it's like this. But you got a DJ playing all sorts of drop it low, twist your body kind of music, and it's a family show. I've walked into family restaurants, you know what I'm saying? And it's the same music. So at the end of the day, we have to understand that we've reached, either we're desensitized to how much our culture is being affected, or or at the end of the day, we're not aware how much music affects our culture. But if you think
Okay.
music doesn't affect your, yeah. But anyway, that's in a nutshell. That's kind of, I'm long-winded, so you gotta be ready for
Okay.
that.
I just want to make a
Yeah.
follow-up question before I get back to Sophia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You've spoken about how you were part of a group called that a group called Ukani Manja, right? Did a
Yep.
song. Have you carried on with that? How impactful was it? And also, do you maybe look at widening the conversation amongst yourselves as artists, as entertainers?
Mm-hmm.
Have you maybe taken a deliberate step to maybe widen how many people are within that, just to make sure that there's sustainability with whatever project that you're trying to do with that Ukani Manje group?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the hardest things, I mean, one of the things I think the biggest moves that we made last year was, even when I was on tour in the States, I got a chance to meet a guy called Jacob Fain, who's the head of A&R at Elektra Records. We've been trying to start a discussion where we could do some collaborations with local artists and artists abroad, just to make the conversation a lot more wider. You know what I'm saying? Imagine trying to get somebody like Ed Sheeran on board, on the discussion. Imagine trying to get somebody like Taylor Swift on board on a discussion. So those are kind of like the moves, but that stuff takes time. So that stuff takes scheduling, and everything takes money. So here's the thing, like it everyone makes decisions now based on money. You know what I'm saying? It's even funding, even NGOs, ask any NGOs, they have to sell you an idea. And the problem is we have people who are having HIV and AIDS fatigue, right? Even funders sometimes have HIV and AIDS fatigue in terms of contributing to to the importance of the discussion. So trying to get funding is probably the hardest thing. Anybody will tell you that for anything, any good cause. People say, "Oh, oh my gosh, oh wow, this what people are dying." But it's a different thing to get people to actually pay for something. So that is probably one of the biggest things. And everything people put in money where their mouth is. So people would rather pay for something that's entertaining or different things. So which is why us as artists, even when we do sometimes projects like this, it's at the sacrifice of certain forms of income because what we do is our livelihood. But at the end of the day, to get people on, a lot of the people who've jumped on Mkani Manja, whether Chef, Mag 44, Esther, Wezi, Slap, it was volunteer. It was just out of heart. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that could be awarded. But at the end of the day, a lot of these things need funding and a wider push to get a message across.
Okay, okay. Thank you so
Mhm.
much, Abel. So, Sophia, in one of his answers, Abel talked about how there's limited regulation in terms of how much art is put out there, where and when the song can be played, and all of that. What type of programming can be sold out to this type of people. Maybe I want to look at it from because you people are industry individuals, you are there.
Mhm.
So before we talk about parental control and all of that, because there's certain things that have been made to look normal, but in turn are actually leading to very high cases of HIV and things like HIV, teenage pregnancies. But do you think there are any things that you as industry individuals, both filmmakers, musicians, and all of that, creative arts collectively can refrain from, in as much as you're looking to make content that is sellable and also make money at the end of the day?
Well, I think Abel touched on it a lot from a music perspective. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I can touch on it from like a TV film type of
Mm-hmm.
perspective. I definitely think there's stuff that can be done, but that stuff comes in being intentional. For example, in film, if
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna create a story, when writers are creating stories, they need to be very intentional about the message that they're trying to put across. So if you're telling a story about someone who's promiscuous and whatnot, you need to tell the story in a way whereby you don't glamorize it. People need to be able to understand, to say there are repercussions and there are certain things that are, they may look good, but they are not good for
Mm-hmm.
us, for development, and even for, in this case, fighting against the spread of HIV, the spread of stuff like teenage pregnancies, because a lot of stuff, it looks cool, it looks fun, especially I think these days, there's a lot of adolescents who are consuming a lot of this content. I think they're the number one, if I'm not mistaken, consumers. So they can be very impressionable. So you need to tell stories in a way whereby you are putting lessons attached to the story so that anyone, for example, in a film or on TV who watches that will be able to see, like, okay, this character went through this and they came out like this, because we do have the power to change the narrative on a lot of things. We have a lot of power when you're in the industry to change the mindset of things. In this generation, stuff like drug use, for example, we children have almost become desensitized to it, because almost every song you hear, they're talking about drugs, they're talking about sex, they're talking about money, and these things are packaged in a way whereby they look good, you know. So I think
Mm-hmm.
people need to be intentional about letting um, people know, to say it's not nice. It could lead to teenage pregnancy. It could lead to the spread of HIV and AIDS. Because I mean, if you're doing drugs and you're, just with friends, maybe you find yourself in a position where, because you're doing drugs, you lose your sense of, inhibitions, and then now you're just basically winging it. Everything is just vibes. It's just vibes, and next thing you find, you become a little bit careless because you're under the influence. Before you know it, you have an unprotected sexual encounter with someone, and it could lead to the spread of HIV and AIDS. So, stakeholders, people like writers, people who are in charge of regulating films and whatnot, these are the things that they need to look at, and these are the things that they need to be really intentional about. And I think as actors and actresses, maybe these are the things, like, we do have meetings about what messages are being put out there and how things are coming out in workshops. So all of these things have to be considered more, you know, in terms of what we are putting out there and how we are packaging. Because I think the packaging is really, it's all in the packaging. You can make anything look any type of way on TV, depending on how you package it.
Okay. I'd like to get back to you, but before that, Ebo, do you think there are there any components of SRH awareness in the Ukani Manje project?
Can you elaborate what SRH is?
Sexual reproductive health.
Okay, all right, cool. Uh,
Because,
I think
because
what, sorry, so you're asking about,
you can
sorry, ask
carry
that
on.
again. Okay, so
So
you're asking
basically,
about
what I'm trying to
SRH
say
in
is that,
Ukani Manja. Hmm.
yeah, because I mean, because if we are going to discuss HIV, there's
Hmm.
other components that we can
You're kind of breaking.
have already been infected. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I think you're a lot more clear now. So can you just repeat the last part?
Yes, I was saying, so we can't talk about HIV prevention without SRH services. Those are important and help both in the prevention and um, post HIV cases. So,
Hmm.
is there a way that you think music can work to raise awareness on some of these sexual reproductive health services? And fortunate enough, you've raised the Ukani Manje group. Um, how does that work? Do you think we should be expecting anything like that from you?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I first of all, I have to commend Sophia's industry in terms of the film industry. They do a great job because they set a lot of regulations. You have certain things like, parental advisory, or, blocking certain channels. Music rarely does that. So, like I said before, we're having an uphill battle. But let's think of the positives. There are people who are out there spreading a message, all right? But yes, at the end of the day, we always have to ask ourselves: we think first, is the message danceable? you know and our influence as artists, I think we create a deep following. So in discussions like this, where people can actually hear you talk and hear your mind on a certain issue or share information, you have come so for example, our influence usually on issues like this, I found that artists take more of an approach in terms of speaking than they do translated through their music. Because usually when we do take music, from my experience, when we do positive music, it rarely gets airplay. Um, it doesn't get as much airplay, and I won't say rarely, but I said it doesn't just get as much airplay as it would deserve, right? So you'd have moments like this where you're actually having discussions about something that will help people understand. There are times I've had just discussions about HIV with people like Slap, and now discover new things, right? New
Mhm.
information, statistics. I love statistics. And you share some different stuff like, oh snap, like for real, like that's the percentage, that's how many kids get, infected or affected. And when you're hearing this kind of conversations, you realize how much is filtered, right? And also, again, we have to ask ourselves, where do people run for information? That's also a big discussion we need to have. If you check out, when you say what are the most followed pages on social media, that's a danger in itself, because if people are not getting the best information, at the end of the day, you can't expect them to make the best decisions at the right time, right? So
Mhm.
if foolish information is free, but everything that is building or has a sense of intellectualism to it has to be fought for just to educate the people, then the question is, you have to ask yourself, who's benefiting from ignorance?
Oh yeah.
Who's funding ignorance, right? So if you say, most music that you're listening to is not really the way you'd like to live your life publicly, then the question is, who's benefiting from it? Who's
Mhm.
funding from it? Who's funding from gangster music? Who's funding from, you know, the music that's constantly just talk about take it off, take it off, take it off, right? And that's the thing I think that's the thing that we have to ask ourselves is like, listen, I don't. If you're an adult, you're making adult decisions. A lot of people here listening, I know definitely they're college age. What you've reached a point where you're making your own decisions, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it's if we don't have moments where we actually have real conversations, then we're not around real people, right? Because real life is what affects us the most.
Okay.
So I think it's genuinely important that we should have create more forums for real conversations.
Okay. You are demonstrating that by being available for us. Thank you. Let me just check out a few comments before we
Yeah.
just get to wrap up with the conversation. My last two questions. So Stephen Chikwa is saying, "I like the song Take It Back by Slap D. We have to send messages out there that raise awareness." All right. Thank you so much. Chabilo Mwiku is saying, watching from Livingston. All right, thank you so much. Nice to know that Southern Province is tuned in. Mayuya Kausa, watching us on YouTube, is saying it is clear that people in the industry are not well informed on the issue of how to uh, of, uh, of how to use art to educate on HIV and SRH services, and don't take it as an agent or pressing matter. All right, thank you so much. Um, Stephen is back again and saying, I like the intentional part by Sophia. Unfortunately, most people in the industry of art only care about the numbers. Hence, if you're going to do music, you need hype music. And if it's film, it has to be bad boy, bad girl kind, right?
Mm, mm.
Right. Sakala Agnes is watching from Osaka. All right. Thank you so much. Uh, Victoria Nakanika is saying, lovely to have amazing, influential people talking about HIV prevention and the role of art. Looking forward to learn. Muyambango is saying, nice topic, guys. Keep it up. I'm following from Joma, Southern Province. Thank you so much, Southern Province, for tuning in. Stephen Chikwa is saying, Lukulu is watching. It's nice to see Ebo Chungumusuka and the Zuba lady. She's a great actor from Zuba. Right. All right. Thank you so much. I think before we wrap it up, I'd like to ask just the last two questions. Um, how firstly, I'll start with you, Sophia. How can civil society and other partners work with you to create meaningful, lasting impact in this sector?
Well, I think I would have to refer to something that Abel brought out
Mhm.
in what he was previously saying: forums and proper platforms. Sorry, Abel, I'm paraphrasing. But
It's
yes.
all good. It's all good. I got you.
Proper platforms where artists can have these serious conversations, okay?
Mhm.
Because it's one thing, um, for us to just be on TV or to just be in the music industry and to be influential, but also is the civil society willing to partner with artists in order to bring out certain messages? And like Abel said, who's gaining from ignorance? So are they that pressed, or do they see the urgency in these matters that they are willing to create these platforms and these forums where artists can come and speak about these things? Maybe you can talk about personal experiences, you can talk about stuff and relate it to the art industry, because there's so much that can be done, and on my own, I may have a following, I may have this, I may have that, but I can't do it on my own. I need to partner with other people. So, even what he spoke about funding, are people willing to fund certain, like, if, for example, if we say we need to go to a certain place to raise awareness about HIV and AIDS, to sensitize people, to also help against the stigma, to make people understand HIV and AIDS, are people willing to fund those endeavors that we want to do? So there's a lot of that, we can't do it on our own. Like, we all need to partner together, and people need to be willing and to also see the urgency. Because if I come as an artist with an idea and I think, oh look, there's this place, there's this certain community that needs this information, and I need funding, I need help, are people willing to fund me and to help? Because I'm not a millionaire, baby. So how are we gonna partner together to be able to do these things? Because unfortunately, in this day and age, we have, there's the ideal, right, on how we would want things to be done, but the reality of things is everything needs money. So there's a lot of funding, and people need to be willing to do these things and to also see the urgency in these issues, as opposed to maybe we just speak about it, you just put a comment on Facebook, you type out. And everyone also needs to realize to say, you don't also always need to be a big organization to make a difference. It starts from you. The moment you feel that this is something that you have this, you feel it's almost like a purpose, you want to spread awareness, you want to let people know, you can also start in your community. You can start speaking to your friends, you can start doing research. It's so many things, it's a wide range of things, because like Abel said, it's an uphill battle. It's not something that can just be done just today. It needs to be constantly worked on, and we all need to do our part and be willing to put in the work that requires the changes to be made.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Sophia. Abel, you started this conversation, and she has taken it a notch higher. You brought the idea which she has taken a notch higher, but funding in a case where probably funding is there. What are some of the methods that you would specifically point out to say, okay, we can partner in this way, I'm ready to work with civil society in this manner, and we as artists could be able to utilize some of these initiatives together with civil society for us to be able to create a lasting impact in this sector?
All right. So, you know, I'll give you an example. There's some questions there that, for me, I think at the end of the day, did trigger me just a little bit, simply because there's, I think, do you still have some of the questions, especially the first two there, or they've already left the screen?
The comments?
Yeah, some of the comments.
I think we'll be able to get some.
Okay. All right. So there's two. One was talking about, I think it says that it's very clear that artists don't know something to do with this HIV and AIDS and thingy. And then I think the second one was basically having a call to action and artists not doing enough, right? All right. So
There it is.
art is powerful use. Okay, great. I think one of the things that people tend to do is
Mhm.
glorify the artist, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, at the end of the day, you're the people are the consumers, right? If your highest selling artists are not giving a positive message, the question is, what does it say about the consumer? Because they're buying the product, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The thing about the person who creates a product, the person creates a product based on what they consider is a need. So what people want to listen to and what people want to hear will create the desire for it, right? So
Mhm.
the reason why Sophia
Mm.
is on probably the most viewed show in the country is because people feel there's a need for that content. Now, one thing that I've found as a challenge most of the time is when people approach you with the assumption that they want you to do something, right? Uh, and they say, "Oh, this is really, really big," and you say, "Okay, cool." Whether it's even in a formal situation, I've been in meetings which I've been brought to before, even to the highest offices in the country,
Mhm.
and they'll say something and they'll say, "This is a very big thing we want to be able to do to reach out to youth, what," and I'll say, "Oh, great, man." And then they say, "But we don't have money." And I'm looking and I'm thinking, "What?" And they say, "We don't have money." And I think, but it's a need. You have money somewhere, but you feel that there's no need. And usually every artist will tell you this. Most times when people need us to do something like this, there's always a story about there's no funding. So meaning
Mhm.
even when they were applying for somehow a reach to share or spread this message, there was just no funding. I've
Mhm.
reached out, people have reached me, "Oh, we want to do this thing, the whole country wants you to go around the world." Oh, okay, great. How are we going to do this? So which means I've been gone for weeks at a time. Forget, let's not forget I've got kids and there's no funding. So it brings a question sometimes where you have to ask the question and say, at which point are you also taking something serious? Because at the end of the day, I don't go into the studio and start working on an album that is meaningful to me. But at the end of the day, I understand that the consumer has to do it without some form of funding. I have to have an agreement with my producer and different things. So at the end of the day, there's only so much that we have to be able to understand the discussion of, is our heart really into it, or are we just trying to get people to write on something at the easiest way
Mm.
possible? Because you see,
Mhm.
the thing is, the reason why you see a lot of certain adverts on TV is because they're pumping a lot of money, and now you're convinced that that drink is the best drink to buy, right?
Yeah.
Because that they're buying prime time message, they're going on the news, they know there are people watching at this specific time. They'll know that, okay, this page is the one that's trending, and they'll put that message on that page, right? But what you end up finding is that when it's something that is meaningful and something that needs to make a difference, all of a sudden everyone wants somebody to do it for free.
Mhm.
And it's in no way to say, guys, we all want money. No, but at the end of the day, we're adults to be able to understand that things will not work unless we punch in some form of money or from some form of income to make it happen. Somebody needs to be paid along the way. And I'm not even saying that it's even the artist. It's the fuel, it's the things, it's the costing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how many, because I'm a philanthropist, a lot of people see that I do a lot of, yeah, I've won humanitarian awards. A lot of people see that. So I get a lot of this. And I'm telling you that I get every single day somebody wants me to do something, and or an organization wants me to do something. And when you ask about the budget, it's almost like it's non-existent. And
Mhm.
you see these people with the, pajeros moving around and different things, and I'm like, but you got funding for some, where's the heart? You know what I'm saying? When people ask me why I do my music, I say I do my music, it's got a message behind it. But even with the music that I make, I realize that I have to pay somebody, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, even people come and ask me and say, "Oh, Abel, as a Christian," I'm like, no, that's not how it works. So
Yeah.
I would love to see people's money where their mouth is, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, um, until we're actually taking the way any organization would go with a marketing strategy to push their brand, it's the same way the brand of positivity needs a marketing strategy, and a strong one, a very well funded campaign. Because otherwise, at the end of the day, we are just going to keep falling on deaf ears. These algorithms on these social media apps are very smart. If they know that you're trying to push a message, they'll either demonetize or they'll lessen your reach. Anytime they
Mhm.
sense that there's something that you're trying to organize that you need to reach people, they'll make sure that you actually put in money for boosting or anything like that. Now, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, if only commercial messages are the ones who are putting in money, that's all we'll see, the commercial push. And that's all
Okay.
we'll get, commercial results. So, yeah.
Mhm. All right, thank you. We're supposed to be ending the show now, but I don't know. I think we can read a few comments before we close. So this one saying ultimately both the artists have to come to an understanding that benefits both. In some instances, especially youth-led organizations may not have the resources to pay you guys the same way businesses would. All right. And Chabilo Mwilu is saying, I agree with Abel Chungu. Honestly, if we look at what is happening right now on social media, we have a lot of people with amazing following, especially young people. And sometimes you would wonder the kind of content on those pages. Sometimes someone will put an emoji and people are there commenting, reaching 1K. And these are young people. Truth be told, either music or acting really has so much impact on young people. And if people in those sectors can make advantage of those uh, following to spread, I think it should be the message. And then Micho Zulu is saying, is there a way that information about HIV can be packaged, outsmart the gangster ones? I feel we have been using the same modality, which sounds like a broken record to people because they hear it almost every time. If we can put an extra effort in making HIV information more catchy and sexy to tailor it to the generational liking, I would be happy to hear this response from the Zuba lady. All right, Sophia, a minute to comment on that because it's been requested that you do a minute.
Okay, first of all, Chapter Shamano, it's right there, not the Zuba lady. And going into the question, definitely, yes. You know, it's just unfortunate. Unfortunately, the truth is most of the time people prefer messages that are just, it's a mainstream thing. People just want to feel good, they want a certain high, they want an escape basically from reality. So
Mhm.
that's why most of these things get consumed more. But I do think that there is a way that these things can be packaged better. You can package that in a song, maybe in a song. I think you can still make a song danceable. I'm not an expert on music, but you can make a song danceable and maybe just the visuals are telling a story, you know. In film, you, like I said earlier, you can be intentional about how you write the script. You can be intentional about the choice of how your characters look, the characters wardrobe, the settings. All of those things play a part. So to answer
Okay.
the Facebook man's question.
Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes, definitely. It would just take more work, but definitely. And hopefully, people do consume that because no matter how much we try as artists to make things catchy, like Abel said, it's all up to the consumer. At the end
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
day, we do what the consumer wants because we also, this is our livelihood, you know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we need to give the consumer what they want. So, as consumers, have conversations with yourselves also and see what you truly want, because sometimes people say things to just sound like, oh, you know, this is the message that should be put across, but when you actually put it out there, people don't consume it. I'll give an example. Sometimes when I post a picture of myself where there's no message, nothing, I'm just looking good, it will get so many likes, so many shares and whatnot. But whenever I will post something, maybe something that makes sense or a certain particular message, the number of likes and interactions are not the same. And you wonder, like, this is what people are consuming. Like, what do they want? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'd like to appreciate you, both of you, for making time to talk to us today. And our belief as ZYP is that this is just the beginning of us interacting with you on this level, on this platform. And also going forward, there's quite a lot of things that we can partner on. I think you made it quite clear that most people in your industry are willing to work on some of these initiatives, but sometimes it's also an issue of funding, because art is quite a sellable thing, and it has to help feed somebody at the end of the day. So we hope this is just the beginning of a long-lasting relationship as we both chase a world that would be HIV free. Thank you so much for making time. To everybody that has been watching us today, commented, we value your contribution, and we are back again next week, Friday at 2 p.m. Good afternoon.
Thank you.